Hi, BookTube. So before I get into the books I've read so far in July, I just thought I would say I wish I had this camera on like the last 5 or 10 minutes, because as soon as I sat down and I got the camera ready, Fable decides, oh, it's playtime. You're on my level now. And so she was just going to town, running back and forth all over the place, jumping on me, jumping on the camera, books. And so she's still in the vicinity. She's right behind the camera. So if there's lots of movement, that's her. If it gets too bad, then I'll stop it and, film it at a different time. But yeah, she's still just a gigantic puppy. So let's get into the books I've read so far in July. The first one was a fantastic start to the month, and that's The Life She Wished to Live, a biography of Marjorie Kinnan Rawlins by Anne McCutcheon. And this was, I don't know, it set the bar very high for July, because I read The Yearling and Sun Moon Over. I should know this. I've read the book years ago, and then it's in the biography here. But Sun Moon Over, Sun Down, Moon Over, something with sun and moon, sun under moon. I don't know. I should really look this up before filming this. Anyway, so I really liked Rawlings' work prior to going into this, and I always love reading biographies of authors, people that are well known, way more so than celebrity biographies. This is for sure more my style. And anyway, I love this book. It enlightened her other books, of course. And so right now I'm currently reading Cross Creek, which I mentioned in my Friday reads, that this book, Cross Creek, plays kind of not a huge part, but a major part in a way in her later life, because the people that were portrayed in this, in Cross Creek, one of them decided to sue her because she didn't get everyone's permission before releasing this book, and so yeah, people didn't always like what Rawlings had wrote about her. Anyway, that's kind of beside the point. But this follows her growing up in is it Michigan or Wisconsin, and then she goes to the DC area and kind of gets a taste for the farm life, because her father has always yearned to have a farm, and so he initially is in DC, and so they have a summer farm house in the country, which I think nowadays is complete suburbia or city life, for one or the other, but built up for sure. And so anyway, and then so as an adult, she comes across Cross Creek, or stumbles upon Cross Creek, and just falls in love with the area. And it's a small town. I don't know if you could even really consider it a town by the description. I mean, there's very little there. There's very few families, but you just, I don't know, by reading this, you really, and Cross Creek as well, the book I'm currently reading, you just fall in love with the area, and you can't understand why Rawlings moved there. But the author of the biography makes a point that she was still kind of split in. Sorry, now she's gonna see what this camera's about. Fable, oh my goodness, she's just a hoot. Anyway, and so the author makes the point that she is very much split between two worlds, because when she does go visit cities, she does really enjoy that lifestyle and just having all the amenities and the arts and the people, also the literary people as well in her life. And so she's drawn back and forth. And then her second marriage, a lot of the time they're spent apart. They don't even live together. They're miles and miles apart from each other. Because of the lifestyle that she wants to live, because her husband has a hotel that he's running, and that's just not her cup of tea exactly, even though she knew that going in, and she encouraged him and helped fund this hotel. She still wanted her own life. And so yeah, I just really like the independent mindset of her. Although that being said, I was just wanted to wring her neck with the drinking, because she had a lot of stomach issues throughout her whole life, and some of that was contributed to alcohol and smoking, but particularly the drinking, because she would even get in multiple car accidents and hurt herself and hurt other people, because she kind of just brushed it off completely of oh, I just had a few drinks and I'm a good driver when I'm drinking, or I didn't drink that much, or what have you. But yeah, and so that part was just oh, come on. And I know it's a different time period, but still not all the facts, but a lot of the facts that we know now was known then. And yeah, anyway, highly enjoyed this book. If you read any of Rawlings' work, or you want to know more about her, then yeah, this is just a great biography to read. Again, I don't have anything to compare it to because it's the only biography I've read of her, but yeah, phenomenal book. I then read The Babysitters Club, book number 21. This is Mallory and the Trouble with Twins by Anne M. Martin. I'm slowly making my way through this series. They're all like first time reads for me because I didn't read them when I was a kid. I saw them, but I was like, oh yeah, no. I don't know why. I just wrote them off as a kid, but I'm like kicking myself now because like this is just like a great reads. I would have loved them. I like them now, but I would have loved them if I had read them, when I was like 8 years old or something like that. But anyway, this is following Mallory, who is a younger member of the Babysitters Club. I think they're all like 13 or 14, and she is 11 or 12, somewhere around that age. And so she's a younger member of the group, and she comes from a really big family, and so she knows how to take care of kids. But when she gets to this new household, the twins are just terrors. They're identical twins, and their mom dresses them identical. And the only way to tell them apart is they have a bracelet on that has like their name spelled out. But when the mom leaves, the twins decide they're gonna put away the bracelets and like run around like, now who am I? And they get mad at Mallory for not knowing who's who. And then as the story progresses, you know why the kids are terrors, because they are just mad at the world and at the mom for dressing them identical. Like they liked it when they were little kids, but now as they're getting older, they want to have their own identity, their own way of dressing and expressing themselves. And so Mallory, learns about this and encourages them, and speaks up for the children to the mother to like prompt her to. And have them make that change in their life. It makes them much happier. But yeah, this was a fun read. But yeah, twins. I'm like, oh, like double trouble, that whole thing. And then I read Gilead by Marilyn Robertson, and this is a reread for me because a couple of months or so ago, I had gotten Lila at a Little Free Library, and I was like, oh, that reminded me. Oh, hey, I've only read this one. And then Jack just came out, like book 4 in this series. And so yeah, I wanted to reread it. The first time I read it, I wasn't bowled over by it like I had wanted to. Like I know she's a really great writer, and this book has been talked about and wrote about like here, there, and everywhere. But I had the same kind of feeling after reading this the second time of just I don't know, just left me wanting more, or I don't know. Anyway, for people who don't know what the story is about, it's following a older pastor who he is writing to his young son because he is dying, and so he's writing to the son on just explaining what his life is like as a pastor and what has taken place, and advice to live your life. And that all sounds well and good. But I don't know if it was just dragged out too much. This wasn't a huge book. I read it on ebook, so I don't know how many pages. But I don't know, like 250, 350 pages or so. But yeah, I don't know. It has never pulled me in completely like I would want it to. I admired the pastor and the story he had to tell. But yeah, I don't know what about it. If it just kept me at a distance or what. But I would just never, like I could put it down and had no really strong desire to pick it up again. But I'm gonna get this done, so I'm gonna force myself to pick it up again. But you get what I'm saying. So if anyone's read this book, or especially the rest in the series, let me know if there were other books in the series, like book 2 and 3, are similar to this or a different tone or what. And let me know what you think, because I'd like to know if I should really continue on this series or not. I then read English Greek by Ivan Duong. Again, I need to look up this author, oh my goodness, to figure out how to pronounce his name. But this is the second book I've read by this author, and I really like the first one, so I wanted to continue on. And this is a part of like, it seems like the last book and this book are both part of like 2 different series, and so I don't know exactly how to approach it. Anyway, I just randomly picked a book. They were set in a similar area in Montana, and this is following a young teenager who learns about life through, I don't know, kind of like unexpected things happening over a summer. He helps his old-time family friend who comes to find out is a drunkard, and he is helping him like take care of like we're touching base with shepherds in the hills, and so they're making their journey through these little small areas, and he learns about life through that, and then he comes back to town and helps out on various farm tasks. And that kind of sounds, I'm sure, very boring, but it wasn't. I really liked the characters in here, and the setting was just great. And it probably wasn't the best of Ivan's work, but I still really enjoyed it, and I'm happy to continue on. Like, I don't know. And then read Gary Paulson's Brian's Return, and this book felt completely redundant to me. I think this is book 3 or book 4 in this Brian series. It started with Hatchet, and so in this one, Brian is just completely dissatisfied with civilization and wants to return to the wild. And that's basically the story. Like, he goes into the wild and just reminisces and, uses those skills that he's learned in the previous books. But when I say this redundant because his feelings, his emotions and all of that, I feel like have been hashed out in the past 2 or 3 books or what have you. And there's 2 more in this series. But yeah, I don't know. I would just kind of left it was a good, good writing, all of that. But yeah, I'm like, why was this book written? Was really what I was left thinking. And then the last ebook that I read, which is a comic book, is Sense and Sensibility by Jane Austen. And I had recently read a manga of Pride and Prejudice, and so I wanted to get this comic book. This was by Marvel. And I've read Sense and Sensibility once, and so so this was like a second read of it in a way, but an adaptation. And I really liked the art style. It was like the beginning. You talked about how it's kind of like a lyrical artistic style. I mean, the cover doesn't really fully show what the art style in the comic book is like, but it did have these humorous. Because sometimes they would shrink down and they would just be big heads with little bodies, if that makes sense. If you can see that there. But this is following 2 sisters with very different ways and very different attitudes on approaching life and what their ideas of an ideal man is. And more than their relationship with men, I feel like it's for sure a focus on the sisters and their love for each other more than for the men. But they come from, they're living in a big house, and then when the father dies, all the wealth in the house and everything gets left to the oldest brother, and so the mom and everyone has to move to this little small house due to the charity of relatives, extended relatives, and the story takes place from there. And yeah, it was a good book. It felt like I said, like a reread of Sense and Sensibility. Now on to the physical books that I've read. And this one is Journeying by Patricia McLachlan, and I read Sarah Plain and Tall years and years ago, and I've never picked up anything else by her, but I just saw this in a free library, and I thought I would give it a shot. And this is about, it's really, really short, something like, 80 pages, but it feels shorter because the print's very big, and there's wide margins and things like that. But it's about a little boy who is very, disgruntled about his mother. That's not even the right word, disgruntled, about his mother leaving. He is just devastated, and he wants the whole book is about why did his mother leave him. And he isn't just by himself. He's living with his sister and his grandfather and grandma and all that, so he still has someone to take care of him. He's not left at a foster home or anything like that. But and so the grandfather decides to take pictures to, I don't know, point out that he can still have a happy life even though his mom's not there, and that there's love and kindness still within the family, even though it isn't what he initially had known with his mom being there. So yeah, it dealt with heavy topics in here. With you do find out why the mom left, of course, and it doesn't get completely with a bow and all that perfectly wrapped up with the mom. You don't get the idealistic ending there with that. But so yeah, I really liked this realistic discussion and ending of a mother and a family drama and all that. So yeah, I'm happy to have found this at a free library, and it makes me want to reread Sarah Plain and Tall. And for all I know, she could have Newbery winners, and they might pop up when I get to her years. Because I'm reading the Newbery books chronologically. And I'm still, dang it, in the 1940s or 50s. I'm I need to get out of this era. I've been stuck here for a while. I just need to make a focus of reading some Newbery books. I then have The Valley Below by Alice Marriott. And this is about a woman who, her and her artist friend moved to New Mexico right near Los Alamos, where they have the testing for the nuclear bombs. And so they come at an inopportune time, because normally this area is a small town, like not even a town exactly, outside of that area and outside of Santa Fe as well. Normally it's very, cheap and affordable to live there, but because of the nuclear testing, it's all blown up, literally and figuratively, of like the housing market. There's nothing left, and so they eventually find this like old, like rundown adobe house with like rats and spiders and snakes all throughout the house, and they have to like exterminate it and all this stuff. And there's no running water or any of that, and so they have to fix this all up. And so it's a story of that, and then her workings with the Native Americans, because she is, I'm not gonna like a sociologist or like an archaeologist in her previous jobs, and so she wants to find out more about the Native Americans in this area. And then her friend, her roommate, is and there's also art in here by her roommate of like the different landscapes and houses and things like that in the area. So yeah, overall I like this, but I didn't really care for the layout, because I think there's more full size. The layout, well, anyway, I didn't finish my sentence here. I think there's more full size pictures, but I'm not finding any at the moment. Anyway, I didn't really care for the layout because it goes back and forth all over in time. It's broken down by subject. So is there like a listing of the chapter titles? So you have like the house, property owners, having a 2-car family, and the Indian dances, a wedding, things like that. So it goes by topic and not in chronological order. I think I would have preferred it much better with the chronological order, because I was like, what is happening? Like, didn't we just talk about this like last chapter? But now this scene has yet to happen, and yeah, I don't know. It just didn't flow as much as I would have liked. I then read Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen, and this is the manga version, and I just really, really like this, and so it made me go to Barnes & Noble and pick up like quite a few others that that I had saw last time, but I got Anne of Green Gables and this one, because these are the two for sure that I really or like I wanted to top my priority. But then I went back and I got 2 others that are still on my radar. But yeah, I'll show them when I do a book haul. Anyway, yeah, this was a very true adaptation of Pride and Prejudice. There wasn't much taken out or anything like that, and yeah, the art style, like I've been showing, I liked, the big eyes kind of threw me for a bit, but you still get the story in there. And like I mentioned, like the last couple times I've talked about this book, I feel like the humor in here of like the Japanese humor, like where the characters are like all of a sudden like turned more cartoonish with like funny little lines. I'm trying to find one here. Let's see, hold on, I can find a bit better one. But anyway, so yeah, I really liked it. And if you like manga or like rereading, like I guess like adaptations, yeah, this can't go wrong with these. I was highly impressed. I then have Summer at Lake Haven by Ray Ann Fain, and what drew me in was this cover, and this came out in I think 2020, and this is about a woman Samantha, who she gets these new neighbors for the summer, and it's Ian, and he's a biologist, and he's looking at salmon in the area, and he has 2 young kids, and he's also a recent widower, and so she enlists the kids to help out with these puppies that she's unexpectedly gotten, and so she becomes to form a friendship with Ian, and their romance takes off from there. And she's also dealing with kind of being pulled in 2 directions, because she had a very controlling mother who's passed away, and so she's left with this store that she's enjoyed working at, but isn't her true passion. She wants to design wedding dresses, and she runs a clothing store, so it's not like 2 completely separate worlds, but she really wants to go for the design. But she's like, how can I do that? How can I afford this? And I don't want to give the ending away, but I felt the ending was very, very quickly wrapped up, and I feel like not discussed enough, not given as much explanation as I would like, or like, yeah. So I liked it, didn't love it, but I really liked this edition. I then have The Big House, A Century in the Life of an American Summer Home by George Howell Colt. And this is all about a Cape Cod house that has been in this man's family for many generations. And it's now going to be put for sale because he can't keep it up anymore. It was just used as a summer home. Excuse me. And so the book is following like way back when the house was being built in the area, what it was like, all the way to present day. And this came out in 2003, so up until that, into the early 2000s. So it follows it discusses a great deal of time, and each chapter goes, like, you go through each room, and everything's discussed in great detail and the history of every single item, it felt like. And so while I like that idea, I don't know, I just didn't care enough. Like, who are these people and why do I need to care about them? Or like each little nook and cranny, I'm like, okay. Like a little bit that's, fine, all fine and well, but I felt there was too much detail and too much historical data in there. And the story just didn't move along as much as I would like. So yeah, this was a bit of a disappointment for me. I then have Esperanza Rising by Pam Munez Ryan, and this is a riches to rags story about Esperanza, who is living like the good life with like servants and the whole 9 yards in Mexico. And her father dies, and everything gets given to the uncles. And so the mother, and they're kind of like threatened as well to leave. And so the mother and the daughter flee to Bakersfield, California, where they're going to be like fruit and vegetable pickers, and they don't have any servants now. And so Esperanza has to learn everything about how to live on a farm. And it does get kind of gritty and gruesome in some parts, talking about like keeping things clean is all I want to say there with that. But when I got to the end of the book, the author was saying how she was inspired to write this because it's really based on her grandmother, who had that same lifestyle, going from that same history of going from Mexico to Bakersfield and working on a farm and being part of that community. And so yeah, I really enjoyed this one. I then have The Readers of Broken Wheel Recommend by Katarina Bivald. And this is about Sarah, who is pen pals with an older woman named Amy. And Sarah is in Sweden, and Amy is in Broken Wheel, Iowa. And so when Sarah arrives there to stay for a couple months, come to find out that Amy has died since her last letter. But the family tells her, Amy would want you to stay in this house. And so luckily she at least has somewhere to stay. And then, not Amy, Sarah's like looking around the house, and they'll realize there's so many books here. Like, what can I do with them? Like, I can't just sit here and read them all. I want to, give back to the community in a way. So even though she can't work, she's on a visa, she decides to open up a bookstore in this small dying town. And, not for profit, not for economic reasons, thank goodness, she is now, going to sell these books. And so people who have never read before or know almost nothing about it start coming in, and so she makes friends with the community and finds romance in here. And the romance part is the only part I didn't really care for, because the ending, if anyone has read this, I was just kind of like meh on it. I'm not going to go into detail because I don't want to spoil it, but overall I really like the story. There's a lot of bookish talk in here and there's even at the back, there's a list of book recommendations of all the books that were discussed, and then it also has all the authors that have been discussed. And so yeah, this was a great, I really enjoyed it, like the small town life, and how you can make friends and just build a community with bookish people. And then like in her bookstore, she decides, instead of doing the generic labels of like thrillers and romance and classics and what have you on each bookshelf, she decides to, be more creative about it. And so I thought I would read you some of the bookshelf categories that that she came up with. So there's sex, violence, and weapons, and that's thrillers and mysteries. Then she has Iowa, just for like the books that are set in that area. And then small town life, short but sweet, for Friday nights and lazy Sundays, unhappy endings, like happy endings when you need them, things like that. It was just a really good book. So I'm happy to have picked this up at a local free library, and thank you for the commenter for prompting me to read this book. I highly enjoyed it. So those are all the books I've read so far in July. Let me know if you read them and what you thought of them, about them, especially the Gilead series. I really want to know if I should continue on or not. Anyway, I'll talk to you soon. Thanks, BookTube.